Welcome to the No Picks After Dark podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Dante. Folks, I said October is going to be the hottest month of the year. October, surprise, part 2. You know we did it last year. We're going to do it again this year. And we have a special guest coming on, folks. Let me break down the bio real quick. I want to do it because the bio is so long, but we're going to make sure we do it right. Senator Cory V. McCray was elected to represent the 45th Legislative District in the Maryland State Senate in 2018. Since that time, he has been named legislator to watch by the Daily Record and Maryland Matters. Additionally, Cory also serves as the first vice chair of Maryland Democratic Party. Without further ado, Maryland State Senator, Mr. Cory V. McCray, what's up?
Aaron, just glad for the opportunity, man. Glad for the opportunity.
Hey, that's why we're here, man. That's why we're here. I'm honored to have you on the show. You know, I always give people a little backstory. So I was sitting in on my neighbor's house. We could do a gathering. Mm-hmm. And my neighbor was like, I love State Senator Cory McCray. And, her and I don't see eye to eye on certain politics. So it turned my head like, oh, okay, tell me more. And I know who he was. I knew who he was because he's always in the district. He's always walking around, very friendly, but I just never spoke with him. So I saw him at the Live Baltimore party. Mm-hmm. And I said, hey, we got to talk. I've been emailing. He's like, you ever emailed me? So I'm giving the background, folks, so y'all can understand how this all went down. And he said, what's your email address? I'm going to email you. And sure enough, he emailed me the next day and was on it. So I appreciate you taking time, sir.
Yes, sir. No, appreciate the opportunity, man. I just love my city, love representing my neighborhoods that I'm born and raised in, and most importantly, I think that each and every resident deserve efficiency and effectiveness in their government, and try my best to lead by example is the most important part. So I check my own email, so that's why I kind of look at that piece of it and can kind of see it through. But that's important to me, man. Customer service.
I love it. I loved hearing that. I love hearing about that. So let's give the folks a little bit of background about you. You're from Baltimore.
Yep, born and raised.
Born and raised. All right. What's your favorite childhood memory growing up in the city of Baltimore, Charm City?
Oh wow, that's a zinger right there. You like start off with zingers. One of the things that I think about is I remember Lawrence Bell and Mayor Smoke always coming to my school. They had a very strong presence at my school. Aaron, I can't tell you exactly what they were saying at that moment, but that's the same type of behavior that I try my best to emulate, because I think that it had a very strong impact, not just on myself, but my classmates.
Nice. I like that. You brought it back, Kurt.
Yeah, man. This the 80s, like 89, 88. Like, I can remember.
Okay. Were you a big time? Okay, so me and you about the same age range then.
I'll be 39 at the end of this month.
Okay, I'm okay. I ain't gonna tell my age. I ain't gonna do that, folks. We ain't gonna get into all that. But let's talk about, was Eddie Murray, were you a big fan of Eddie Murray?
Eddie Murray, I remember baseball. Yep, definitely Baltimore Orioles right there.
Okay, and then where'd you go to high school? Because everybody in Baltimore is all about the high school.
Man, high schools is major, man. I went through a lot of challenges growing up in the city of Baltimore, some that our young men and young women face. So I went to 3 high schools. I did 4 months over at Emerson. I did about a year and a half over at Northern, and then I ended up graduating. We called it the Fairmount Harford Institute right there at 25th and Harford Road.
And from what I read from your bio, you had some challenges.
Yep.
And what would you say was a turning point as a youth that really changed you around, like, to where you are, like, to create who you are as a man now?
Yep. I think that when we graduate from high school, many of us don't know or didn't know what we were going to get into. I always say, by the grace of God, I had a mother that didn't give up on her son. She reached out to the Maryland Department of Labor. She said, Cory, fill out apprenticeship programs, applications at each and every apprenticeship program. Luckily, I was accepted into the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. Aaron, why is this pivotal? Why is this a very important moment in time? Because I can remember starting off at $12 an hour. I can remember the scale going from $3, $4 raises each year, and I actually thought they were hustling me. So keep in mind that that the folks in my family, you know, if you were making $35,000, that was a lot of money. That's a big deal. So you're telling me that I can make $35 an hour, and I just thought that maybe they put you out in your third or fourth year of this apprenticeship. I didn't have kids at the time. I got 4 kids at this moment: Kennedy, Reagan, CJ, and Bryson. The reality is that we get bills, $20 bill here, $30 bill here, just from the kids going to the doctors and dentist appointments and things of that nature. But that's because we have good health insurance. So imagine if you didn't have health insurance. And hopefully when that time comes, I'll be able to retire with dignity, such as a number of folks that entered into the agency, the industry. But to answer your question, I think that apprenticeship moment kind of shed a different light. It took me out of the 4 blocks that I was familiar with, put me around a number of folks that were doing different things within the craft, specifically the craft. And you had some entrepreneurs that I was working around, and, you know, started buying houses up and down Bel Air Road when I was 20 years of age. But I did that because I saw it and I said that they were no smarter than I was. I could do the same thing.
Oh, so you were flipping houses at a young age.
You know what? So flipping, I wasn't selling them. I was actually renting them and holding on to them. But you know what? I always knew how to make a buck. So folks will say Cory know how to make a nickel scream, but like, but you know, just being able to see it, and I didn't understand, you know, that houses appreciate at that moment. I didn't understand the tax shelter and things of that nature from it. I was just trying to make a couple $100. I figured if I got a mortgage, then you could rent it out for that period. But the reality is that a bulk of them are in Bel Air Addison, and that was kind of what drove towards my political activism.
Okay. We're gonna get to that political thing. So, were you in any organizations, like political organizations, in high school? Like, was this even on your radar at all, or was this just something like that just popped out of nowhere, or was there a mentee or mentor out there that just was like, "Hey, man, you got something to talk about. You got something to say."
Nah, I tell folks that I was like a lot of young folks, you know, that look towards politics. You leave me alone, I leave them alone. So I didn't even really start voting until probably like late 20s. I met my wife, Demetria, when we were 17. I can remember when she immediately got into voting at 18. But like, I just had a different attitude towards it. I was trying to make a buck at that moment. And then you realize that politics is intertwined in everything that we do, whether it's the speed bumps that come on in our streets, whether it's the BG lights coming back on in 2 days or 2 weeks. Efficient customer service is wrapped around, especially in the local political space.
That's interesting you're talking about that, because so the route you took was an apprenticeship, okay? Mm-hmm. You didn't go. Did you go to a 4-year or 2-year for schooling?
So because I really understood money, I actually went through BCCC. I did 3 years at BCCC. This was night classes. This is Saturday classes. This is a little bit of online. And after that, I did get an associate's degree at BCCC, but I did it where I could pay for it as I was going along. Then I got my 4-year degree at the National Labor College. I do think that each and every day you can learn. You can see from the book right here. I try my best to keep a book in my hand in case I got any type of dead time. So I think that there's always moments to educate yourself, and that's why I use school as that vehicle. Maybe there was something out there that I didn't know about entrepreneurism that I could pick up from one of the professors or one of the teachers at that institution.
I love hearing that. Because I always tell people about my story. I almost dropped out my freshman year of college. I was called academic probation. I wanted to play spades too much.
I'm a good spades player, man. I'm a good spades player.
And my parents said, "Listen, you can pick a trade up. No biggie. You know, you do what you want to do." And that was my scare straight moment. And it was like, all right, let me. And I always remember, I started off with 20 guy friends my first semester. Only 10 came back. So I get it. So what about your friends growing up? Are they still around? Or some of them have the drive that you have growing up? Did you guys inspire each other? Did you guys, like, you know how people always say Maryland's the crab, or did you guys uplift each other?
I think that, you know, when I go through my neighborhoods, like, folks just give me a lot of love, man, because they see, like, something that might be unreachable, unattainable, but you know, like, oh, man, Cory did that. You could do it. I saw a friend, Mia, and you get to watch their kids grow up. And you know, when I saw her at the state fair, then I dropped the mom off a citation. She said, Cory, you just dropped my mom off a citation. But the reality is they just so happy for you. I got childhood friends that even whatever they went through, they still show love. They still happy because, like, you beat it. You beat every odd against it, and now you're actually giving back to try to do stuff for the neighborhoods that we grew up in.
So again, this is your neighborhood growing up all the way through and thick and thin.
Yep, lived it through and through.
It's changed, hasn't it?
You know what? You've seen some change for the good, some change for the worse. I think that when we were coming up, probably in the 90s, it was a little bit harder. You were subject to getting locked up if you were just sitting on your porch, so like it was a little bit different time from when I grew up, but not much has changed. We still have to make sure that we invest in our young people. Our young people need that type of love, whether it's recreation, whether it's the job training, whatever that is, because they're our greatest jewel that we have. And I think that was something that was missing, but that is something that I try my best to double down on as I sit in this space and share this space.
Folks, we'll be right back after these messages. And folks, we are back with State Senator Cory McCray. I mean, he's speaking that gospel. He's preaching over here. I'm sweating over. Get a sweat fan over here. I feel like back in church right now. I used to go to Bethel AME back in the day, so I felt like I was going, but my knees started shaking a little bit. But I love hearing your story. I'd like to set that up for the second part because people want to know, invest in you. They want to know about you first.
Yep.
Let's talk about politics. I always wonder, why in the heck does anybody want to go into politics?
Yep.
Why do you want your life to be on TMZ? Like, I mean, that's what it is at the end of the day. If you hiccup the wrong way, you misspoke, you misspeak, you not to knock a certain place, but Fox will pick up and say, oh, he thinks this way, but it's just like, first of all, why do you want to get into it? Let's go there.
So I will be very honest that I didn't want to get into it. As stated, I seen the neighborhoods that I grew up in facing a significant amount of challenges. I saw political machines in East and West Baltimore, and good people couldn't cut through, to be honest with you. There was a young lady that ran for office back in 2011. Her name was Shannon Sneed, and she had came within striking distance of 30-some votes of the incumbent at that time. And I watched, good person, but the challenge was that I watched a number of folks line up behind who I thought wasn't the right candidate at that moment. She had quit her job. She didn't raise a lot of money, but she went out there and talked to people and had a passion for the work in our neighborhoods. And at that moment, I said, well, Cory, first you have the discipline to go out there and knock the doors. We knocked on about 10,000 doors for the run for the House of Delegates. You can organize. So we organized a couple hundred young people and built a little baby movement in order to get across the finish line. And then you can leverage. You can leverage the resources. So the money piece of it wasn't that hard. We put together about $40-some thousand, which to a lot of folks that's in that space isn't a lot of money. They put together 100 real quick, but $40,000 to me was a lot of money. And we ran an 18-month campaign, so I gave my life up for 18 months to be able to represent the 45th Legislative District. Aaron, we went in there and we had a ball. I went in the House of Delegates. We worked on voting rights. So folks that were on parole or probation did not have the right to vote until 2016. So like that was a piece that we worked on, increasing apprenticeship opportunities for our young men, young women in the city of Baltimore and across the state of Maryland. As stated, I lived it. So how do you not try to make sure that you can expand on that piece of it, because we know it works? The third piece is just making sure we had school construction transparency. So around the dollars that was being spent, we see in our district, or the entire city, 23 to 28 new schools are being built in the city of Baltimore, but we only got 3 in our district. And Aaron, I asked the question, I said, if you're building 23 to 28, and the people that's more poor than us is the people in the heart of West Baltimore. How is it that you're not providing these educational opportunities that are going to be the lifeline of our neighborhoods 20, 30 years from now? Because people move into neighborhoods because it's safe and because they're good educational opportunities. Because we had so much fun, I had the attitude that I was up and out. I said, look, I can't sit in a space knowing some of the information that I know and knowing that we weren't truly addressing it in a manner that I thought that it was deserved. So I said, look, I'm talented. I'll go do something else. I don't need to be here to define Cory McCray. So I ran for Senate. This was one of the toughest challenges that I'd ever done in my life. I ran against the second highest senator in the state of Maryland, so the Senate President Pro Temp. And when I say you didn't know that the stars could come and align against you, I'd always had high energy and thought things could work. But so many of my friends said, Cory, you sure you don't want to wait 4 more years or shit? And I just said, like, that's not what I signed up for, man. Like, I'm here to make a difference. We won. We won by 17 points, so it wasn't even close. But the reality was I was very tired and didn't realize how tired my body was. It took me, I was going to sleep early and I was waking up late. And I was like, Cory, is something wrong? You need to start taking supplements or something? But after about 3 months, my body was just telling me, hey, mentally and physically, you worked me and exhaust me in a capacity that you've never done before. And then I found my limit. I knew what my limit was. But we went in the Senate. We had equally as much fun as the House thus far. I'm in my 3rd legislative session, going into the 4th one. We did minimum wage, raising the minimum wage up to $15 an hour over a period of time. We've done increasing the tobacco tax. You know, the reality is that our young people are smoking at rates, alarming rates, and making sure that we can keep it out of their hands as much as possible. For my transportation fans out there, we did a bill that over a 6-year period, $2 billion, we call it the Transportation Safety Investment Act, making sure, but we've been doing things like expungements, we've been doing things around food deserts, we've been doing local control to make sure we can return it back to our police department. This year right here, Aaron, we did 21 bills passed. Best year that I ever had, hands down. But this one was the year where I learned a lot, but also worked a lot. I have a unique opportunity to be on a budget committee, one of 13 members, chopping up a $50+ billion budget and just making sure that that's representative for the neighborhoods that have been neglected, not been equitable, is the main priority for me.
And how many state senators are in the for the Baltimore area? On that committee though.
So I'm the only one. That's a good question. I'm the only one on the budget and tax, which then gives a great amount of leverage, gives me the unique opportunity to really dig deep down into our budget. And we have 4 subcommittees. So because of the ascension of Senate President Bill Ferguson, that opened up opportunities. And now I'm chairing public safety, transportation, and environment as one of those four folks that's in leadership.
I will tell you, you know what really hurt me the most was we lost out on the red line. I think that's one of the things that still haunts me to this day.
Yep.
I worked on that line, the company I worked for, and we were helping to purchase properties from people and whatnot. And I remember how amazing that was going to be for Baltimore. Mm-hmm. I remember, I was like, this is going to be Baltimore. This is going to be perfect for us. Imagine getting from Edmondson Avenue all the way to Hopkins if you need to get to the doctor's appointment, or you work at Amazon, you get across town. I always thought our transportation system was different here. It was never developed to where it should have developed. Do you ever see that ever coming back?
So we don't know if it'll come back in the form of the red line, but that east-west connection, so much work has already went into it, and we know that we have a void right there. The challenge is that Baltimore transportation has almost been non-existent. We've got like a suited up bus system that still don't work in the capacity that it should work in. But you see the most thriving cities across our nation, they have high-spirited transportation opportunities for folks to be able to have walkable communities, but also having that transit access and getting there in a short amount of time is very, very important. As you stated, it brought shivers to me because $2 billion were moved out of our economy. You got to remember, close to $1 billion coming from the state, giving up $700+ million, $1 billion coming from the feds, giving up close to $700 million from the state, and then also the addition of the local jurisdictions putting up money. That just would have been jobs directly and indirectly to the city of Baltimore. Think about all the coffee shops. Think about all the gas stations, the supermarkets that would have indirectly benefited from $2 billion removed from an economy from that standpoint, on top of the transit-oriented development, on top of being more healthier for our environment, because the more that we can get to these places in a short amount of time versus using cars and trucks and things like things of nature like that. It would have been totally beneficial for the Baltimore region, but unfortunately that didn't happen. Hopefully with the next governor, we all put tough questions on them in reference to what are you doing for transportation for the city of Baltimore and the Baltimore region. We know that with the infrastructure dollars, Senator Chris Van Hollen and Ben Cardin are talking about making sure that there's a placeholder so that if we do move in this direction, that at least we'll have a start with the feds.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I love hearing that. I really do. So I moved to your district, and you said something that was very important that hits home. You said walkability. I moved over here, and I was like, I needed somewhere where I can go. I can walk to the store.
Yep.
I can walk and go get my coffee. I have kids. I want to walk around the stroller. I don't want to think twice.
Yep.
Why can't I have the same thing that people have in Canton and Fells and Federal Hill? And I really like this area because this area is becoming that.
Yep.
And just to see the foresight of like the walkability of like the safe streets, you know,
Yep.
And I like that. That's a big change for a lot of people. A lot of people didn't like that. The change. It's like change for different, but you know, what do you think about this Harford, the bridge about to open back up?
Yep.
Do you think that's going to be a positive or negative impact when that bridge opens back up for the area?
I think that the more people you can get walking in any neighborhood is just great. So when you look at what we've done with Z Coffee, you look at a number of the restaurants that's on this corridor, so you got great food opportunities. Bookstore hopefully is coming back to our space. A studio on Harford Road from that standpoint. Like the more that we can make our communities are diverse with stores, diverse from stores where it's not just methadone clinics or just barbershops or things of that nature. You got the Pep Boys right there, like you got your auto mechanics. You need that in order for neighborhoods to thrive. And the more people feel as though they can walk, the better off our neighborhoods are going to become. The more people are going to grow. And as you talk about, just growing our city, we're losing. We're going to lose a state senator in our respective area, and hopefully we won't lose two. But we have to think about what that next 10 years look like, and I think that the Harford Road corridor is in the front and center and leading the forward trajectory of Baltimore City.
I love hearing that. So let's get to legislation for marijuana. What's going on with that? I mean, I always hear we're a progressive state, but I don't think we really are a progressive state. The more I look at it, because I've asked other people in the political spectrum. New Jersey is legal. New York is legal. Washington, D.C. is legal.
Yep.
Virginia is legal.
Yep.
And Virginia's legal. First, Virginia. Let's think about that. It's Virginia here. And now Maryland's right in the middle of everything. What are we doing here? I mean, I can be honest. I went to California. I went to America. I went to a shop. I felt like it was an Apple store for a second, like, because it was that legit. But those tax dollars, they tax the heck out of it out there. And I've heard people say, well, we don't know the model. The model, Colorado's been open for a while. Washington State's been open for a while. What are all these excuses? I mean, come on. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out where we are, because a lot of these convictions need to get overturned. A lot of this stuff from people way back. Yep. You know, now you see more of the, I'm going to be honest, more of the rich people own the medical marijuana thing. And they making millions. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on that, Senator?
So, first, it's inevitable. It's coming. It's definitely coming. You've seen where both of our leaders, the Speaker, Adrian Jones, and you've also seen the Senate President, Bill Ferguson, signal that, yes, we're doing it. We're trying to figure out which manner we're doing it in. You've also seen a number of these gubernatorial candidates take public stances on it and says, yes, I support legalization of marijuana, which is a good thing. So let me be very, very clear that it's coming. The House has proposed to do it as a ballot initiative so that it will be on a ballot in 2022, next November. I apologize. And the Senate has said, hey, we don't need to do it as a ballot initiative. Let's just do it right there. Let's get it done this year, type of thing. I think that there is going to be some type of middle, because obviously that's what we built government for, is some level of consensus. But I do know that something is going to get passed this year. I could just feel, I'm about 90% sure that something is going to get done this year to move us forward with marijuana, the legalization of marijuana. I think that you brought up some very interesting points, though. So we're going to have very, very strong conversations. We're 60 plus in the Black Caucus, 60 plus in the Black Caucus. So those folks have been affected because of their employment, housing, a number of issues around being arrested for marijuana is going to have to be dealt with. You saw in New Jersey actually said that the people that get prioritized for licenses are people that had convictions in the past for this. So like you're going to see some form of progressive movement making sure that we deal with these issues. This is unique because it's not like sports betting. It's not like this is a industry that's disenfranchised black folks for years and decades on top of decades on top of decades, and folks are looking to make sure that is properly addressed when the legislation does come forward.
What is one of your most proudest moments, bills you passed, the one that you were like, this is why I'm here?
Yeah.
Because I always tell people this podcast is for the voices of the unheard. And what have you done to incorporate that? You can say, you know what, this is what I've done for the community that I live in.
Yep. So you gotta remember, like, I done seen it at its worst, and I done seen Baltimore City at its best. And when I think of that, the challenge that we have in the city of Baltimore is the inequities that we have across the city of Baltimore and failing to be addressed decades on top of decades on top of decades. So the thing that brings the greatest smile to my face is when I can see the folks that may not vote, the folks that may not vote the most, those folks that are deeply impacted but don't understand the importance of government, how can I affect them and raise that bar for them? So voting rights, my first year in office, 2015. And just so that you can understand to the degree that I'm talking about, let's take two zip codes in the city of Baltimore. 21210 is the north part of Baltimore City. It was 10 people in the whole damn zip code that were on parole or probation. Let's take a zip code that I represent, 21213, which is basically Bel Air, Addison, and everything down the hill. 937. So when you talk about 937 versus 10 in a zip code, like that's what winning looks like when you're talking about from an equitable standpoint. Those people that go out in 21213 and faithfully vote each and every year, all those older black women, they're indirectly impacted because the people next to them, such a large concentration of them, would not be able to vote even if they wanted to have the right to vote. So 2016, that changed. Flipping that on that its head, it was like a beautiful moment for me because it was 40,000 people impacted by that legislation my first year in office. The second one that I would say brought another smile to my face, and we debated this. We debated voting rights rigorously on the floor, but when I say in committee, on the floor, when it come back round, the House bill, I could just remember having pains in the side from raising the minimum wage. We've moved up the minimum wage over a period of time. It'll trigger $15 an hour. But I can just remember being in the cusp of it. I can remember being deep inside of it. And Aaron, when I talk about who does this impact, who's the people that don't make $15 an hour? They are typically 55% are women and 50% are black people. So when you think about who this affected black women and women in general, because they're working in our hospitality industries, they're working at a number of our hospitals and things of that nature that don't make $15 an hour. That I knew I'd done service at that moment. And how does politics indirectly impact it? You saw Under Armour, I'm moving up to $15 an hour. You saw Amazon, I'm moving up to $15 an hour. You saw Hopkins, I'm moving up to $15 an hour. You saw the University of Maryland, I'm moving up to $15 an hour. And this is doing it without having to do it. So like these happen just because of we passing it, but moving in that direction, man. That like brain, I know that's why I went there, to try to address inequity. People should not have to work 2 or 3 jobs, Aaron. And just so that you know how it hits home, I can remember my mom working 2, 3 jobs. I can remember walking to school by myself in elementary school, and I can remember walking home with a red whistle and my key around my neck because my mom was working 2 jobs, and that's what we had to do. So I can remember these points, and I'm thinking about like, man, what are you doing walking home 3rd, 4th grade? Obviously, you didn't have to walk a long distance, but why would any kid have to, before you go to school, you walk into school before you come home and then locking the door until your mom gets home 6, 7 o'clock from work. Like, that's not the way life's supposed to be. So you ask me what made the greatest impact, what puts the biggest smile is when I'm solving issues that I know are impacting somehow our young people are affected by it in some capacity.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for explaining that to us. So with COVID, the world slowed down for a little bit. Mm-hmm. How did that affect your job? I know that you guys weren't going to Annapolis anymore.
Yep.
How did you guys maneuver that? And then what did you hear from your constituents and business owners? Because a lot of businesses struggled after this. And a lot of them are still struggling. What did you do?
So,
what did you hear?
First, it was tough out here for business. You saw what we went through with our schools. You saw what our seniors were going through. Like, each and every community was affected in some capacity. And I'm glad that we, as the legislature was able to work with the governor's office to be able to pass like a COVID emergency bill early on in session. That's one of the first things that we did in session to make sure like our arts and entertainment, folks wasn't going to museums, folks wasn't going nowhere. So like they were directly impacted. I sat down with the BDC to be able to understand some of the grants that was handed out to and seeing what's on the Harford Road corridor, the Bel Air Road corridor, my North Avenue corridor, and knowing that we did the people's business. When I think about like the safety for distance type of thing that's happening on Harford Road, happening in Station North, happening in Bel Air Addison at this moment right now, I know that we did our responsibilities. COVID, presented a unique opportunities, especially for like our higher educational institutions, but it presented these unique opportunities to say that we have to do better. It exposed us to say like, hey, maybe folks can work from home. Maybe this the digital divide truly does exist because everybody didn't have a computer in their hands, especially our young babies. Maybe it exposed in reference to the service, the internet service that happens in some of our communities, whether you're in urban jurisdictions or rural jurisdictions. Maybe it exposed that, like some of our young people had to learn with 4 or 5 siblings in that room, so the bandwidth for that computer wasn't doing the same type of thing, or it just wasn't a conducive learning environment in which they had to learn. It exposed us in a lot, but I think that it presented a number of great opportunities, and I think we took action during the last General Assembly. I think that last year was big. Last session was big, I should say, because of the work that we were able to do. And I should give a big shout out to the federal government because they did give us ARPA dollars. They gave us ESSER dollars to deal with a number of those issues. But I think that we could pass those dollars right back into our business community, right into our educational institutions, our arts and museums, our transportation, and our hospitality. Some of this stuff still has not come back, but I know that we did right by a number of industries and how it would impact Baltimore. And I know that that was just state. That was just state. So I know that $600 million is still sitting at our local jurisdiction, and our mayor, our council president, and our council folks are having that conversation about what does that look like and who does that impact.
Yeah, I have a lot of listeners outside of Maryland. And what would you say to them about Baltimore? What would you tell them about Baltimore? Because this episode highlights all the positive things about Baltimore City. And that's what it's all about. And I have people from all across that listen. What would you tell them? Why, if they had a family and they had a job opportunity to move to Baltimore, why would they come here?
Yeah. So it's a couple points that I'll hit from that standpoint. So when I think of Baltimore City, I think about it being exposed during this COVID, how great of the parks that we have. So like we took up biking because we couldn't do any type of sporting events, but we got to see a number of our parks. You think about the one right down the street, Herm Run Park, and that amenity. You think about the Great Blacks and Wax Museum. You think about the zoo. You think about all these different amenities from that standpoint. I think hands down, folks know that the best crab cakes are at Coco's. So I like to take a jab at everybody to think not, but just wanted to make sure that we point that out. But when I ask people that are not from Baltimore, sometimes you got a jaded view because you just take these things for granted. They say that our food spaces, they say the diversity in food in the city of Baltimore is mean. And I was like, man, you're right. We got Caribbean, you can get Italian, you get, so you got a number of folks that will express, especially if it's not from there. And then I think it's the people, man. We're a space that is very much a town of communities. And like, I don't make it out of East Baltimore, Northeast Baltimore much, man. So like, if you name the smallest street in West Baltimore, I'll be like, where was that at? Well, you name Port Street. I'll be like, no, just been to right there, so like we're very much a city of communities and take very much pride in our communities from that standpoint. So like you said, while Federal Hill and Canton got what they got, Harford Road got what we got, Bel Air Road got what we got. You look at what they're doing down there at EBDI, what Johnson Square is doing in that community. You look at what they're doing in Station North, like this is very major, and I love the communities that I get to see each and every day.
I mean, you just broke it down. I mean, you jumped into one of my questions, but that's all right though. We gonna, if you could look back at your younger self, what would you say about you? What would you say about your younger self now, looking back where you're at right now? What would you say? What would you tell yourself?
That's a lot. And I say this to my young people. I tell them to work hard. Nobody can never say that Cory McCray never have a work ethic, but make sure that you work hard. I think that I would tell folks to cultivate relationships. You meet a number of people inside of the space that we share, this one life that we're given, but make sure that you take advantage of those relationships and making sure that you can offer up opportunities for other people as you're cultivating those relationships. Disciplines. I've always been a saver. I think that I've seen myself grow in a number of the disciplines that I have, and discipline can mean a lot of different things, but like mental discipline, health discipline, these are very, very important. And I know that it sounds cliche, but the last one that I always say is give back, man. Like, I didn't realize, a lot of our young people, we grow up and we think getting money is winning. Like, hey, the more money I make, I'm winning. The true measure of success is how many people can you get across that finish line. I think that's what you do every day as you're opening up the airwaves, if you're making sure that you're giving a voice to the voiceless. How do you get more people across the finish line? And that's what life is truly about. So if just to re-hit the points for anybody that missed it, work hard. I think they work hard, but sometimes working hard just don't get you through that door. It does take that relationship and the cultivation of that relationship. Disciplines are very important, but most importantly, when you make it, it's important to give back.
Hey, I'm not going to say anymore. He said it all for me. So we got through the hard part. We're going to do a little thing called rapid fire.
All right. I hope I'm ready. I ain't that quick on my feet.
You good. You good. What inspires you every day?
What inspires me every day? My kids. I got a Kennedy, Reagan, CJ, and Bryson, 14, 12, 7, and 6. And the smiles that they put on their face. You got kids. The smiles that's put on their face, they're genuine. Like, kids say the most honest stuff. And you be like, I can't believe you said that. But, like, it's so much opportunity in our young people, man. It's unexplainable.
I love it. I love it. What is your favorite thing to do when you're not working?
Reading. Right now, I got a book of Carl Stokes. He's the first black mayor of Cleveland. And I think that each and every opportunity we should be learning. And I enjoy reading because it kind of removes me from that space that I'm in at that moment and puts me in another one.
What's your favorite book?
What is my favorite book? Right now, I really enjoy Black Fortunes is one of my favorite. It talks about the 5 first black millionaires, O.W. Gurley, some of the people. And this was millionaires when, like the early 1900s and things of that nature. Definitely, I keep that one on my shelf.
True or false, you got hustled by a chess champion?
You know what? I enjoy playing chess. I'm pretty sure that somebody. Oh, you know what? I did. I had a young Tyler. Young Tyler ain't tell me he was actually on a chess team for a School City Neighbors High School.
Best crab cake in Baltimore?
Hands down, Coco's.
Crab cakes or crabs?
Crab cakes.
Snowballs or ice cream?
Ice cream. I know the snowball piece. I threw you off right there.
You threw me off.
Yeah.
All right, flats or drums?
I'm definitely a flat man, and like don't even want them. Flats all day long.
Blue cheese or ranch?
Ketchup.
All right, I'm not gonna ask that question.
I'm loving this.
Favorite city to visit, not Baltimore?
Favorite city to visit, not Baltimore. I enjoy Boston.
Okay. So what? Chess or checkers?
Chess.
Okay. And what's the best advice you've ever received?
What's the best advice you ever received? You can do anything that's unimaginable.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Where can we find you on social media? Are you TikToking?
Are
you TikToking yet?
I'm getting old, man. I'm old, man. I can't keep up with these young folk, man. But on social media, on Facebook, we're Senator Cory McCray. On Instagram, it's Cory McCray. On Twitter, we're at Senator McCray. And email, and that's always the best way to reach me is Cory, Cory, McCray, MCCRAY at Senate, SENATE, State, STATE, MD, US. Phone number 410-841-3165. Once again, because I hate when people say it too fast, 410-841-3165.
And is it easy to get a hold of you?
I try my best to make myself very accessible.
And when does session go back in? When do you guys back in session?
So we meet the second Wednesday of January, and we go all the way until the second Monday of April.
You guys got a lot of things going on.
It's a lot. And this is when you really prepare. So those folks that are thinking about legislation, those folks that are thinking about capital dollars, this is that moment that you want to start having those conversations. You don't want to have it when you're in session. You would, like you just said, where we at on legalization of marijuana? This is where you should be trying to get folks positioned. Obviously, you want to see how the bill looks, but the reality is that you should be able to answer a number of these questions at this moment.
Okay. Well, folks, you heard it here first. And hopefully I can get back on twice. Hopefully we can get him twice. We can get him back on.
I enjoy myself. I
might have to make a trip to Annapolis, and we have to go down there and see what's really going on down there for the folks. But again, I appreciate you, State Senator, for coming on. I always try to give everybody a hot October with the amazing guests. I have amazing guests all year long. But October, I like to, get on with the fire and heat and just say, I call it my sweepstakes.
That's why you got that orange shirt on.
Oh, no. That's a cue. That's a cue. But it's all good. I appreciate you taking time because I know you're a busy man.
Enjoy myself, brother.
I know you're very busy. But again, thank you so much. I saw him in the community the other day. I was like, and I saw him say, that's what I'm talking about. You're in the community. And I love seeing it. So, folks, love, peace, and happiness. We're out.